Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, actually maybe not children because sometimes we get a little bit inappropriate, coming at you from the wonderful Impala Films headquarters in sunny Southend-on-Sea, it is another episode of Second Take Cinema. I am your host, Jamie Evans, joined as always by Mr. Rory Jocelyn, and today we are doing a film chosen by Mr. Jocelyn. It's one of his favourite films, I believe, one of his favourites of all time.
No, I wouldn't say necessarily one of my, but it's one of my favourite comedies.
Right, it's definitely one you quote a lot.
Yes.
Ladies and gentlemen, today we are going back to ye old year of 1980 as we talk about Airplane. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, we are talking about Airplane, although it's one of those titles that has an exclamation mark on it, so I feel like it's supposed to be said Airplane, like that.
Airplane!
So this is a spoof comedy movie directed by Jim Abrahams, David and Jerry Zucker in all three of their directorial debuts. It was made for the relatively low budget of $3.5 million and grossed a whopping $171 million way back in 1980. It comes in at a nice tight 87-minute runtime. I like that. I'm not a fan of films that go overly long. And this stars Robert Hayes, Julie Haggerty, a whole bunch of other people, most notably Leslie Nielsen. The biggest shock for me was that Leslie Nielsen is not the main character of this film, because in pop culture, he is the one associated with this film.
Yes, and with the Zuckers and Jim Abrams in their future ones with Police Squad, the Naked Gun trilogy, which is an offshoot of Police Squad, and then obviously he's they've gone on to do other things, but he also came back for them on Scary Movie 3 about 20 years later.
And he worked with Mel Brooks as well on Dracula Dead and Loving It.
Yeah, he started this was the first comedy movie he did, and along with every other actor in this, apart from one we will get to later, because I can't believe he was hired for acting chops, but everyone else in this film was hired because they were serious actors who they didn't do comedy roles, and they wanted them to play it all serious. But one thing I will say about Leslie Nielsen, he said that after he did this film, every single acting role that he'd done prior, all the serious acting films, all of a sudden people started watching them and laughing and saying you were funny in this film. But because it was his comedy's deadpan performance throughout this, they basically just took that he's always playing jokes even in the serious films. Well,
apparently Leslie Nielsen, way back around the time of release, when an interviewer said to him that he was playing against type in Airplane, he actually protested and said, "No, I've always been cast against type before." Airplane comedy is what he always wanted to do, apparently.
Yeah. I've seen interviews with him where he said, it was the thing he always wanted to do, but no one would ever give him a comedy role because he's not a funny. He doesn't look like a funny guy. He doesn't act like a funny guy.
No, he's got that deep voice. Yeah,
he's got it's actually quite a commanding presence. Weirdly enough,
he's
when
really
in a serious context.
The best thing I've ever seen Leslie Nielsen in is not a comedy at all. He is in one of the short films that makes up Creepshow, the first Creepshow. He is in a short that's just him and Ted Danson. They're the only two actors in it.
Oh, nice.
And he's the villain. And I actually can't remember why he hates Ted Danson. I think Ted Danson is married to his daughter and has cheated on him or cheated on her or something.
Right.
Anyway, Leslie Nielsen drugs Ted Danson and buries him in the beach up to his neck and then leaves him for the tide to come in and drown him.
Wow.
And the whole film is just a monologue by Leslie Nielsen with Ted Danson occasionally being like, "No, man, you can't do this." but it's brilliant. It really shocked me because it was Leslie Nielsen, how I'd never seen him before.
That's really interesting.
Yeah, it's worth watching.
Yeah.
Creepshow is not a bad. As with all anthology films, some sections are good, some sections aren't.
Sure.
But it's a powerhouse team up because it's directed by George Romero, and all the stories are written by Stephen King.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it's an incredible team up. This film received universal acclaim from critics. It's widely regarded as one of the best films of 1980. It has a 97% approval rating on Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah.
And the site's critical consensus reads, though unabashedly juvenile and silly, Airplane is nevertheless an uproarious spoof comedy full of quotable lines and slapstick gags that endure to this day. Our good buddy Roger Ebert of the Chicago Sun-Times wrote, Airplane is sophomoric, obvious, predictable, corny, and quite often very funny. And the reason it's funny is frequently because it's sophomoric, predictable, corny, etc.
Yep.
I don't think there's anyone who's a contrarian. At least nothing that's... I can't find
Time
any
for you to
contrarian.
change that, Jamie.
Time for me to change that because this was garbage.
So, Jamie...
No, it wasn't garbage. It wasn't garbage. I'm going to come up... Because I'm not doing that anymore. This isn't Jamie, your film taste sucks. I'm not playing that character anymore. This just isn't a type of comedy I like.
Okay, so...
I don't like spoof films in general.
Sure. Have you ever seen this movie before?
No.
Have you ever seen a grown man naked?
Yes. Several. I'd seen bits of it just because it's one of those films, much like Back to the Future or Indiana Jones, where you can't really be alive for more than about a decade and have not heard anything about Airplane. Like, it's one of those that...
It was a cultural touchstone of its time, I think.
It's parodied so frequently, it's quoted so frequently. Yeah. I definitely 100% knew the... of course I'm serious and don't call me Shirley.
Yeah.
Line.
Surely you can't be serious. I am serious and don't call me Shirley.
Yeah, I knew that line.
I think that was the line that made Leslie Nielsen in the comedy sphere, and it became so readily quoted that it just kept coming back and back.
And I obviously know the famous meme of the guy when he's piloting the plane and he's like dripping sweat everywhere.
Yeah.
Because that's a meme that gets shared quite a lot.
It's used as a GIF usually.
So, as always, this is a spoiler warning for anyone. We are going to be spoiling elements of Airplane. Not that there's much to spoil in the way of plot, because it's a parody movie.
There's no twists, really.
No. Parodying a whole wave of disaster movies that were based in airplanes that were produced from the 1950s to the 1970s, most notably Airport 1975 and Zero Hour.
Zero Hour, they bought the rights to Zero Hour because it was basically they spoofed Zero Hour so closely that they thought that they would get sued if they didn't.
That's interesting you mentioned that. Thank you for reminding me, because I actually meant to mention it is such a close spoof that when they won an award for this, they had to win Best Adapted Screenplay. They couldn't win original. It's not classed as an original screenplay.
It's too close to the original.
Yeah, but apparently the two big influences on it were Zero Hour and Airport 1975.
Nice.
I know they made a few airport movies, because I know a guy we know who's big into collecting Criterion films. He's got loads of them.
Oh, okay.
I think it's like 4 of them or something.
I didn't realise Airport was even a series. So
no, I didn't until I talked to him.
Nice.
I think there's like Airport 75, 77, 78, and I think 1980 might be the last one.
Right.
Because it was, as with all franchises, diminishing returns.
Yeah.
And then this ruined it, because I think they actually credited this with the reason that one didn't make any money, because this came out first, and then no one could take it seriously. But anyway, the basic plot is there's a guy whose name I forget, so please remind me, the main guy.
Oh, Ted Stryker. The actor you want?
No, the character.
Oh, yeah, the character's Ted Stryker.
So Ted Stryker is a former NAM vet who was an Air Force pilot and suffered a crash and hasn't been able to fly since. Is that right?
He ordered a bunch of men to do some attack somewhere, and basically everyone died or got horrendously traumatized.
Right.
And they succeeded in the mission, but he was kind of seen as...
He's got the yips.
Yeah, everyone thought he was a hero, but he viewed himself as a pariah for having ruined the mission.
Right.
We say this, but the film doesn't really take that narrative seriously either. It doesn't really take anything too seriously.
Nothing is taken seriously in this movie.
So, I mean, if you want to say it sounds like a super serious narrative when you say it, but the film does not treat it with any form of.
I mean, characters die.
gravitas.
Characters die, and no one bats an eyelid in this movie.
Yes.
This is less serious than most horror comedies.
Yes.
Which surprised me, because at least in horror, like say Shaun of the Dead, it's a big deal still when characters die. But this, I mean, literally an old lady hangs herself right near the beginning of the film.
And no one cares.
We see her swinging legs. And no one cares. Not only does no one care, she isn't still... She's gone for the rest of the film.
Yeah.
Like, in theory, she should actually still be hanging there for the whole film. Because we don't see anyone take her down.
So the film is essentially a massive compilation of gags. So it's mostly gag humour.
It feels a little... Actually, that's a good... Compilation's a good word. Because it actually feels like someone took a load of sketches from a sketch show and stitched them together into a narrative.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I can see that. That's... it's more of a cartoon in that sense as well. You know, like the Wile E. Coyote will go off the edge of a cliff and would obviously die hitting the ground, but being that we're in Acme level logic,
Yeah, it's cartoon physics.
Yeah, so and basically Airplane runs on the exact same physics.
Do you know what my favourite cartoon physics trope is?
Go on, Em.
Gravity doesn't take effect until you notice it.
Yes.
They do it in Roadrunner does it the most, I think. You'll always get the one where the Roadrunner will just run from one cliff to another, but because Wile E. Coyote will run like halfway, then he'll look down, look up, and he'll hold up a sign that'll be like yipes or something like that, and he'll just fall. That is my favourite cartoon physics trope. But anyway, so he's this Vietnam vet. He's got a girlfriend who is leaving him.
Yes.
She's an air stewardess. What's her name?
Elaine.
And he decides in a last-ditch effort that he's going to follow her onto the plane, leaving a passenger in his taxi.
Who doesn't actually come back to
Which didn't come back. I thought that was the really obvious joke.
Yeah, but because they go to another airport... we never go back to him still waiting. You'd have thought there would have been one shot of him right at the very end.
Yeah, I thought they were going to
credits
cut back to him, and he's literally still there with a beard. Since it's that stupid, literally, so much time's gone by, he's grown a beard.
You know what? If this was made now, what would happen is rather than have him come back as a gag later on, it would be the Marvel-style post-credits sequence, and he's the villain of the next movie.
Yeah, I mean, this film... I mean, we're kind of jumping all over the place now, but who cares?
The film doesn't take its narrative seriously.
This film wouldn't be made today.
No.
If you made this... and I don't just mean because of the offensive humour, because you can change that. But as you said, the reason this works, or at least it works for most people, is how deadpan it is. There's absolutely no way in hell Hollywood would trust it to be that deadpan these days. No. This would be filled with, like, Kevin Hart and people like that being like, oh, hell no, all over the place.
And people like Will Ferrell. Will Ferrell would be the Leslie Nielsen character if they made it now. And basically, he would just explain all the jokes.
You know the only modern actor who could actually pull off that Leslie Nielsen character?
Go on.
Steve Carell.
Yes, Steve Carell is a fantastic actor and a great comedy actor.
Yeah, he could pull it off. But you're right. I guarantee you, the main character would be like Kevin Hart. I would bet money it would be Kevin Hart.
What? Kevin Hart would be Ted Stryker.
Yeah.
You'd have. I think it'd be Will Ferrell as the Leslie Nielsen role. Doctor.
Probably.
Who would you put? I don't even know if they would have most of the gags with the captain, with the boy. You ever seen a grown man naked?
That would. Joe, that'd be J.K. Simmons.
Yes, it would.
Yeah,
he would do a great job of it as well.
And then your athlete, who's also a pilot, would be The Rock.
Yes, it would.
Maybe Batista, but to be honest, I think Batista would be too good for this now.
Yes,
his career's gone really well.
Yeah, I thought he was just going to be meathead after meathead, and he purposely put himself out. No, I'm not doing meathead roles. Give me, and he's like serious dramatic roles.
Plus,
and he's actually good in them.
Yeah,
plus that's what I did not expect.
No, I know. Plus, people just love The Rock and Kevin Hart together.
Yeah, those two are in a lot of films together.
Yeah, they've got a good tag team.
A bit like Will Ferrell and John C. Reilly are in a lot of films together.
So who would Elaine be? It'd probably be like Kristen Wiig, wouldn't it?
Yeah, probably.
Or dear Lord, Amy Schumer.
I hope no, because she's meant to be sexy.
Yeah, but they keep putting Amy Schumer in sexy roles.
That's true.
Which is obnoxious.
I think because of the I don't know. It depends on how closely they follow
and of
the
course,
80s ideals on it, which they probably wouldn't have done.
You couldn't do it because, one, you'd have to change it so he's an Iraq war vet.
Yeah.
And then you couldn't... Let's be honest, there's one very big historical reason why you couldn't make this film now. 9/11.
Oh, shit. I don't know why that slipped my mind. Yeah, you're right.
You couldn't
especially the bit where they hit that record studio tower as they fly by. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Do you know what? There's only one director who would be brave enough to make this now.
It's Uwe Boll.
It's Uwe Boll.
I'm not sure bravery is the word I'd give Uwe Boll. I just think...
Audacity?
Yes, audacity is the word that would give
Shamelessness?
a man with absolutely zero self-awareness.
Yeah. Anyway.
That wouldn't ruin our chances of working with him, would it?
Maybe. Anyway. And basically what happens is both pilots and the navigator, as well as some of the passengers, all get food poisoning from some bad fish.
Yes.
I thought that was going to be part of the storyline. I thought it would turn out some, like, terrorists or something.
No,
I'm not going to lie, this is probably me being a horrible person, but you know those two monks who it specifically shows you getting on at the beginning?
Hare Krishnas.
The two monks, were they Hare Krishnas?
No, Hare Krishnas, I think.
No, Hare Krishnas have great big beards and stuff. These were like Tibetan monks or something. Because they had like those Shaolin ponytail type things.
They're not Hare Krishnas? Thought they were...
Maybe they are, I don't know. What the fuck do I know?
To be fair, it looked like something that is a very American cultural thing, because we did not have like, all the shit of people walking through the airport and trying to give you shit at the airport. That doesn't happen in the UK.
No.
So I've got no context for accuracy.
My point is, I thought it was going to turn out they were terrorists and they drugged the food. Because I don't know why. Obviously, I'm just stereotyping him. I had no idea Leslie Nielsen played a doctor in this. I thought he played a character very similar to his Naked Gun character. I thought he was like an air marshal or something.
No, he's not even in it for like half an hour.
Yeah, which that's a problem for me. You're gonna promise me a Leslie Nielsen comedy, and I know that's me coming to it retroactively.
Yeah, that's the problem you've got there.
You're gonna promise me a Leslie Nielsen comedy and then not give me any Leslie Nielsen till halfway through the fucking film.
Yeah, but he wasn't a comedy actor.
No, I know. So let's talk about why you wanted to put this one. Talk about your history with this film and why you wanted us to see it.
So, I mean, to be honest, I was feeling a little low and I wanted to watch a comedy that would cheer me up. And I know Airplane always hits the mark because I find it genuinely hilarious. I know you don't.
Do you feel cheered?
I do feel cheered.
Are your spirits buoyed?
They are buoyed. I'm very buoyed.
Yeah, boy.
Yeah, boy.
That's from the sitcom Happy Endings, if anyone has seen that. Fantastic. It's got the youngest Wayans brother in it, I think.
Right.
Damon Wayans Jr., I think is his name. And one of his character's life dreams is to have a boat, which he's going to call Yeah Boy.
Right.
And it turns out that's already taken. So then he chooses Boys to Men, and then Boys on the side.
Right. It's a bit weird.
Yeah, it was an okay show. It wasn't a great show. It was good, though.
No, fair enough. But yeah, so basically, I can't remember when I first watched this movie. But for me, I suppose the comedy of it works for me because it's kind of, I say modern, an update for the 80s of that kind of irreverent humour that is present in the Marx Brothers. And we are going to be doing some Marx Brothers later on in this series. But what I liked about the Marx Brothers was that everyone was very serious and played it straight, except the Marx Brothers, who were cartoons within a realistic framework. This update not only had the parody element that wasn't in the Marx Brothers, it has everyone playing it straight, bar one person. We will get to that person later, because I did warn you about this character, and I said, you'll hate this character because I hate this character. It's the one thing that I think doesn't work. But yeah, and because it's full of dramatic actors playing the parts as if they're in an actual dramatic film, that accentuates and improves the comedy quite highly. I'm not the only person who tends to think this way. I know that, for example, and some people will balk at these two names, but Trey Parker and Matt Stone, who make South Park, they feel the same way. when that, if you're going to take a subject that's silly and make it more silly, the way you sell it is by treating it like, or having the characters within that story treat it with a serious level of gravitas, because then it accentuates how stupid it is. If everyone is just being stupid around a stupid situation, then the comedy's gone, because there's nothing of... There is no drama that will grip you. And Airplane gets tight to that at certain points. There are points where you have some actors playing it with gravitas, and it gets a bit too close to the line with a couple of characters who are too comedic. And it can pull you out of the film. But yeah, no, so that I've waffled on a little bit there, I apologise. But basically, it's an extension for me of the Marx Brothers comedy that I really enjoyed growing up. And I haven't seen much like it outside of what Zucker do, probably at least for about 20 odd years of film now. I know they've done films since then, Basketball, which we are going to review, and Scary Movie 3 at least.
Yeah.
But even those aren't on, and they certainly don't have the cultural and the critical reception that Airplane has. And I don't think they updated their humour, so it ended up just being they're doing their 80s comedy shtick 20 years too late.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'd like to see what an update to this comedy genre format is.
Yeah.
What about yourself, Jamie?
So this is this is probably my least favourite type of comedy.
Yeah.
Which is this... It's hard to explain it, because I like comedies that are weird, but this is too... It feels too childish. It feels almost like it was written by children for me, because it alternates between jokes that are so painfully obvious, it's like something your granddad would tell. Like, what's a hospital? It's a tall building full of patients, but that doesn't matter right now.
Yeah. To be fair, they do repeat that exact joke about 4 times, but with a different building or something mentioned.
But it alternates between that and jokes that are... They're not jokes, in my opinion. They're not jokes, because there's no setup, punchline.
Could you
They are just random acts so that the film doesn't get boring. Like, there's a bit towards the end when we're in the control tower and they're talking and a spear comes out of nowhere and hits the wall.
Yeah, and
then a watermelon drops and smashes. But there's no context to that at all. No setup to it all. And I just don't like stuff like that. I like my comedy, A little bit more relatable, and B, set in a world that feels like it has some stakes to it, whereas this, very much like you said, is a cartoon. Multiple characters die in this movie, and not once is it ever treated with reverence. Not once is it, oh no, this character's dead. It's just, we're never going to mention them again.
Yeah,
the sick girl. Where does the sick girl disappear to? After her main gag, talking about it feeling like sketches stitched together.
Yeah.
She gets the IV pulled out and she does the weird fish pout, which is not the face you'd make if you were dying, but whatever.
It's a little girl trying to be funny.
Yeah. She's never seen again.
I think she's seen right at the end, actually, but and for another gag that, again, doesn't have any... Because I'm pretty certain she's the one that they put into the back... Once they've landed, they put her in the... I think it's her they put in the back of this ambulance.
Oh, okay.
And as the ambulance drives away, you hear a crash and you see a hubcap roll by.
Yeah.
And I think that's the little girl's ambulance.
Oh, I see.
But... Again, that's it. There is no oh my god, then no one rushes to it. It's ignored, basically. It's a throwaway gag.
Yeah.
No, and there's no but that's a child who needs a heart transplant. No one cares.
Yeah, they do, and don't get me wrong. I'm not saying it's not been influential. It's definitely been influential on comedy as a whole, and definitely on spoof comedy. I mean, the biggest spoof comedy of the 90s and the 2000s was the Scary Movie franchise, and even the ones that weren't done by Zucker and Abrams, which I think is only Scary Movie 3. I don't think they did 4 or 5.
They definitely didn't do 1 and 2.
They definitely didn't do 1 and 2. That's the Wayans brothers.
Yeah.
And I haven't seen 4 and 5 because 3 was... I'd grown out of it by 3.
Yeah.
But even those 2... Scary Movie 1, I think it is. Yeah, it's definitely 1, which is largely a parody of Scream.
Yep. I have actually seen that one.
That Scary Movie.
Yeah, the first one.
So there's a joke in that that's directly lifted from Airplane.
Yeah.
Which is when... It's actually a parody of Scary Movie of Scream 2. So slight spoilers for Scream 2, which I know you haven't seen yet. In Scream 2, Jada Pinkett Smith's character gets killed in a cinema filled with people dressed as Ghostface.
Yeah.
And the real Ghostface sits next to her and stabs her. She climbs up on the stage in front of the screen, and everyone thinks it's just part of the movie, like a publicity stunt. So everyone's cheering while she dies. Which is a very cool image. They do that same thing in Scary Movie. That's a parody of the scene in this where, when they all line up to beat that woman up.
Yeah.
And they're like, I'll handle this. They do it there where the guy from Scream is going to stab her, but she's talking in the movie. And instead that old woman just stands up and stabs her. And then there's like a whole line of people stabbing her.
Right.
Because one of them's an acidic Jew, and he goes
Hasidic, not acidic.
I said Hasidic.
Oh, did you? I thought you said acidic. Where's the alkaline?
Yes, they're
juice?
bitter. And when he stabs her, he goes, "This is for ruining Schindler's List." Because she talks through all the movies.
Yeah.
So I think someone goes, "And Caddyshack," and stabs her for that. It's a shame because I don't want to be contrarian. I want to like this movie, but I just didn't find 99% of it funny. There were a couple of bits that were like the bit where they ring the Mayo Clinic and there's all mayonnaise on the shelves behind the doctor person.
Yeah.
I've seen that joke done before.
Yeah.
But I think everything I've seen do it before came after this.
Sure.
That made me smile. I feel like there was one more in the middle somewhere.
What about the little girl who likes her coffee black, like her men?
That's weird. That's just a weird joke, man. That's a child.
But that's why it's funny.
And it is
so weird.
And it is weird. Like, there's the bit where there's just a random naked woman that's
running around with her top off while the plane is crashing.
She literally, it's a wide shot of the plane. Everyone's, throwing themselves around like it's 1960s Star Trek.
Yeah.
And she just walks to, you can't even see her face. It's just her torso. Yeah. She just walks in front of the camera, stands there,
jiggling,
shakes her boobs a little bit. Which again, I'm a guy. I'm always appreciative of that. But for a film that's got the legendary reputation it's got, I wasn't expecting that sense of humour.
Well, that base level of humour.
Because that's usually looked down upon, isn't it?
Yeah. There's a couple of base level bits of humour in this, to be fair.
Probably because it's been done so badly by the imitators since.
Yeah. It's anything that this did right would have been imitated poorly following it.
Yeah, as happens with every successful film.
Yeah.
But yeah, what are the standout bits for you?
So, I really like the dance nightclub scene, where it's a flashback to how he met Elaine, and it's this dirty dive bar in the middle of, I don't know where it's meant to be, it's sort of like Cuba or something like that, maybe.
Right.
But it's, it's meant to be full of all these horrible, like this horrible, dangerous place. There's, you get these big man hands gambling, and as it pulls out, one of them sees one of them's cheating, and they start having a fist fight, and it turns out the two people fist fighting are two Girl Scouts.
Yeah.
Massive brawl throughout the entire scene.
Kind of referenced in Dodgeball, I feel.
Yes, definitely. There's also the bit where, during that sequence, as he's, when he first gets to the dance floor, he throws his jacket.
Yeah.
And when that comes back and smacks him in the face, that's slapstick gold. I liked it.
Yeah, I heard you laugh at that, and I was just like, fuck's sake.
But it was so well done.
I was still in the middle of saying, for fuck's sake, because they literally have the cartoon whoop, whoop, woo sound effect. And I was like, no. I was appreciative of the wire work in that scene, though.
Yeah.
when he's doing the Cossack dance.
Yeah.
But clearly isn't actually doing it.
Oh,
Like,
yeah, because there's no way his body would... The gravity doesn't work.
no, he's leaning, and when she lifts him as well, he's obviously
On wires, yeah.
on wires.
What's funny is you had a DVD copy of it that we watched.
Hmm.
I have it on Blu-ray, and on the Blu-ray you can see the wires, but you couldn't on the
Honestly,
DVD at all.
I'm going to go on a slight little tangent here quickly, which I think I've already gone on this tangent on VGMP before, but
Maybe,
oh well.
yeah.
Better quality isn't always actually better for the film. I feel this way about Hellraiser.
What?
I watched a high def transfer of Hellraiser, and because it's in such good quality now, you can see the edges of the makeup
Right.
and things like that.
Sure.
And it's like this scene. In the original quality, you can't see the wires.
Yeah, yeah.
But now in 4K or whatever,
Yeah.
you can see them. It's not always actually better.
Yeah, well, I mean, the one thing I will say about the HD version that was better than the DVD one, and it's something that could be fixed at DVD level, it just wasn't in the copy you've got, is the frame rate's off.
Is it?
Yes,
I didn't notice.
There was motion blurring, very slight, but it was there. I'm pretty certain it's the one we watched was either at 25 or probably more closer to 29.7 frames per second instead of the necessary 24.
When I checked the properties, it said 23 point something frames a second.
Oh, really? Then it might be just a very old transfer then.
Yeah.
That's led to a bit of ghosting.
Because I do
Because it's a lot like either that or your TV added some ghosting in the motion when it upscaled.
maybe, but you turned that off for me.
I thought I
didn't you?
turned that off, yeah, because it was leading to delays, wasn't it, when we were watching stuff.
Well, because this is another thing. The same friend who's got the Criterion collection, he brought me round once to show me his super cool, super expensive home cinema setup, where he's got a top range TV that's 8K or whatever, and
Yeah.
stuff I don't even know anything about. And I don't like the way films look on that.
No?
They look too smooth, and I don't like it.
So some of that, I would imagine he's got some filters and stuff on the television.
Because I've seen it on other TVs as well.
Something I hate that TVs come with those settings because I have to turn them all off. I don't know what the fuck they're for, and I don't know why anyone
They're
does
for sport,
it.
aren't they?
Yeah,
It's
but I don't
next to
watch sport, and it ruins everything else it touches. I'm like, mate, I don't give a shit if my sport looks like shit because I'm never watching sport.
Except for dodgeball.
But if I watch dodgeball, it's filmed on 24 frames, so it would ruin dodgeball.
No, I'm suggesting that you watch actual dodgeball tournaments.
Why? I'd rather throw balls at you.
They used to show them on ESPN, you know.
Yeah.
After the film popularised
I thought it
it.
was on the Ocho.
After the film popularised it, the actual real world ESPN started showing dodgeball tournaments. And I watched it, and it near enough is the exact rules from the film.
Nice.
And I actually did watch a few of them. And then I was like, it's not as fun without White Goodman there.
No. Did they do sudden death?
Not on any of the ones I watched.
I don't think that's a real rule. I reckon that was because that was the
was
secondary
added 'cause of the
ending, wasn't
rewrite.
it? Yeah.
Yeah.
But anyway, so Airplane. So there's a couple of jokes you liked, but for the most part, it wasn't your taste.
Nothing made me laugh out loud.
Sure, no, I did notice
Compared
that.
to what other comedies have we already covered? Like Detention, I actually laughed out loud at
Yeah,
that.
I like Detention as well, if you recall.
Yeah.
But so the way I'm going to view this then is where you really didn't enjoy it. This is my revenge for making me sit through American Pie, which is
Yeah, but I feel bad because the difference is at the end of American Pie, you were able to find some value in American Pie.
you found some value in
Whereas
this.
I haven't really. It's just not. I'm just not being nasty. It's just not the sort of comedy I like. Like I never would watch this again.
I would never watch American Pie again.
and I
though.
don't really ever want to watch anything else that these people have ever made ever.
But that's the same with me and Gross Out Hugh.
But I'm going to have to, obviously, because we're going to do Naked Gun at one point.
You've given us American Pie 2.
Because you have to see 1 and 2. Because they kind of... I mean, technically 1, 2, and 3 form a complete story, but I won't make you watch 3 because 3 turns the gross up out too far.
No. Something that is interesting is, obviously we disagree on a variety of films. Like, we disagreed on Goodfellas, we disagreed on... well, there'll be more films to disagree on. We disagreed on Pray for the Wildcats, though that's not really a big extreme, because it was a more indie-level movie.
Pretty close on Armageddon, though.
Well, there are films that we agree on, but there's quite a few we disagree on. But largely, we agree on dramatic stuff. Where we diverge in opinion quite strongly tends to be comedy.
Yeah.
Because I noticed you showed me 2001 Maniacs, for example, which we are going to do on this series.
We might not actually. I might chicken out
chicken
doing
out
it. It might be too politically incorrect to get away with
There,
now.
there are some jokes that really go close to the knuckle, but you find that funny because it's one of those where it's so bad it's funny.
Yeah, I mean, I find
And
it
you
funny.
like Robert Englund, which helps.
I do like Robert Englund. I find it funny because I am a bit of a sucker, and I shouldn't be. And I shouldn't be because it's juvenile and whatnot. I'm a bit of a sucker for the type of humour that is risky, in the sense of you shouldn't actually be making that joke because the PC police will come and get you.
The problem with that, though, Jamie, is that we'd already seen Postal.
Yeah.
And Postal is... basically, 2001 Maniacs is a tame version of Postal.
But remember, I saw 2001 Maniacs first.
That's true
So I
enough.
saw that when I was like 14.
But Postal was garbage.
But then I say I like that sort of humour. I don't find Frankie Boyle funny. And that's all his humour.
Yeah, yeah.
So I don't know, I'm just weird.
See, it is interesting, though, that... Because you and I have a laugh a lot. Like, we're not necessarily on this show. We'd have some of a laugh on VGMP, but usually we're kind of both in some sort of mode where we're trying to be entertaining.
Yeah.
When we're not recording, you and I sit down, we chat, we have a laugh, we share a form of comedy somewhere. But when it comes to what we watch for comedy movies, we seem to be on completely separate tracks, with a very rare few where we'll kind of meet in the middle.
Yeah.
And as we said earlier, Dodgeball is one where we meet heavily in the middle. We both think that that's a brilliant comedy film. We both meet in the middle, though not anywhere near as close as we do with Dodgeball. We're on basically the exact same path with Dodgeball. But Wild Hogs we both enjoy. Yeah. I enjoy it more than you do, I think. But at the same token, at least you do enjoy it. But then there's things like this, where we've got American Pie, which you enjoy and I think is absolute garbage. And then there's obviously now Airplane, which I really enjoy and you find is pretty much garbage.
Yeah.
I still haven't quite figured out what the specifics are that make something... Like, how to see a film and go, right, I know Jamie will like this, or I know we would both enjoy this film.
Yeah.
Because, American Pie is gross out, but the first one at least didn't have a lot of gross out.
Yeah, no, American Pie, because so the first one I think only has like 2 gross out jokes in it. It becomes much like how Saw becomes increasingly reliant on the traps and gore. American Pie becomes increasingly reliant on gross out.
Yeah.
So 1 and 2, there's not too much gross out. 3, there's a lot more. You have jokes like Jim shaves his pubes for his wedding night,
right,
and shaves them over an extractor fan, which sucks the air out and pumps it into the kitchen all over the wedding cake. And that's tame. That's not that same film also has the one where Stifler eats poop.
No.
Yeah, exactly. And then they carry on going from there, and it does devolve. Admittedly, it devolves into just what is the most bodily fluids we can spray over the screen.
Yeah.
Kind of like Saw. They kind of follow the same trajectory in that way.
I do, but then it's not that you don't like zaniness either. Because while this is zany and you don't like it, we watch Detention, and you can't say Detention isn't zany. No, and
I love,
mental.
And I love, like it's one of my favourite films of all time, Army of Darkness, which has got loads of funny, slapstick, old-fashioned humour in it.
Yeah.
One of Sam Raimi's biggest influences is the Three Stooges.
Right.
And he literally lifts Three Stooges gags for Army of Darkness.
It's interesting, actually. Army of Darkness being the most comedy probably of the Evil Dead series,
definitely, except maybe the series, but of the films,
of the trilogy, and it has that old school Three Stooges sort of inspiration to it, and then we've got this film which has a lot more. It's a little bit more connected to the very traditional. As traditional as the Three Stooges, Marx Brothers style of humour. I've never seen the Three Stooges, so
I've seen bits.
Yeah, It would be interesting to see if you'd enjoy the Three Stooges and if I would enjoy the Three Stooges.
Yeah.
To see if maybe like try and break it down to where each type of comedy track starts.
Maybe it's the context it's in as well, because so Airplane is a parody of disaster movies.
I do find you seem to enjoy a lot of high school comedies.
Yeah.
And Detention fits that, and American Pie fits that.
Mean Girls fits that.
Mean Girls fits that.
Airplane's a parody of disaster movies.
Girl Next Door fits that.
I'm not really into disaster movies anyway as a
true.
base.
Yeah.
Whereas
I'm
Army
actually
of...
not into disaster movies, though.
No, okay, fair enough. Because I was going to say Army of Darkness. I'm trying to work out why I maybe prefer that type of humour in Army of Darkness to
Sure.
Airplane. It's a parody of horror. Well, it's not a parody, is it? It's a comedy version of horror, which is a genre I care very much about. But it has that... Do you remember I said earlier when we were talking off air, some films just have a magic touch for me? Army of Darkness has that magic touch. I absolutely adore Sam Raimi's direction. He is probably my favourite director. Definitely he's in the conversation for my favourite director. Bruce Campbell I find magnetic to watch. I realise this is probably blasphemy for most people, but like Bruce Campbell over anyone in this film for me. And I love Leslie Nielsen. But Bruce Campbell, for me personally, has a charisma that I find endlessly watchable, no matter what he's doing. Even when he's just doing cameos in the Spider-Man movies, they are highlight scenes for me.
I will say, though, part of that might be that Bruce Campbell's characters, certainly within the Evil Dead trilogy, Evil Dead 2 is basically the only character in the whole bloody film.
Yeah, no one else turns up to, like, the second half.
And, I mean, that film would not work without him in it.
Yeah.
Not just... Like, they could cast another actor, but it just wouldn't be the same.
Yeah.
That's a magnetic actor to begin with, but there's no one who has... Like, even Leslie Nielsen in this, because he wasn't a big name in the same fashion that he was afterwards... there isn't really anyone who's given that much of a lead. Maybe the closest you'd get to that style of a character is the pilot who comes in to talk him down over the handset.
Yeah.
What's his name? Max something.
Oh, Jim something.
No.
Captain Jim something.
Yeah. Anyway, he comes in, the guy beats up all of the religious people at the airport, and then... that guy's probably the closest, and it's not the same character type at all. It's the closest there is.
Yeah.
To having someone who comes in with a certain amount of magnetism already built in.
Yeah.
If you were to do, if it was a parallel universe, that would be the Bruce Campbell character.
Yeah.
In Airplane. I'm really fascinated by the big distinctions though, because like I do find you give an easier ride to high school stuff, and maybe it's just because there's stuff in there that is more relatable.
Only high school stuff I grew up with. If you show me modern high school films, I tend to find them tedious.
But
I grew up with American Pie, Mean Girls,
In-Betweeners, and enjoyed In-Betweeners somewhat.
Yeah,
I know you said it wasn't your favourite.
Yeah, and I was still in... Well, I was in my first year at uni when I saw that.
Right.
So, and they're in sixth form in that, so it was still close enough.
Were they? I thought they were actually school
No,
kids.
they're in sixth form in that.
Oh, okay.
Because
So
that teacher who yells at them all the time,
Yes,
Greg Davis,
Davis,
he's
yeah.
the head of sixth form.
Right, gotcha.
Because what's the one...
Why are they still in school uniform then?
Actually, no. Here's one. Here's one though, because even that logic doesn't work for me. Because here's a film that everyone else loved. It's a high school film. Came out while I was in school, and I hate it. Superbad. I hate Superbad. It's not funny.
I didn't watch Superbad. There's also Napoleon Dynamite that everyone
I
said
haven't
was...
seen that one, to
I
be
haven't
fair.
seen it either, but those are like the mid-2000s, sorry. There was quite a few films that was like, it's the high school nerd comedy, they're really funny, you guys, you'd love it, you'd be amazing, and anything I ever saw of it, and I only ever saw the trailers, I was just like, this looks shit.
Yeah.
And I know that sounds bad, I shouldn't judge something without having seen it,
Yeah.
but they looked like the nerd version of gross out comedies.
Yeah.
And I was just like, I hate gross out comedies anyway.
Yeah.
Putting nerds in the main characters doesn't make them better. That's not the problem with gross out comedies.
Because
for me.
I thought for a little bit, I thought to myself when I was trying to work it out, and I was like, is it just that I don't like old comedies? Like, oh my god, am I that person? But there are plenty of comedies way older than Airplane that I really like.
Did you
like
name a couple?
like Marilyn Monroe and Audrey Hepburn comedies.
Did you name one?
So like The 7-Year Itch,
Okay.
Breakfast at Tiffany's.
I wonder if you'd like, because we have planned to do The Odd Couple, which
Yeah.
is Jack Lemmon and Walter Matthau.
Okay, so I do like Some Like It Hot, which is Jack Lemmon, Marilyn Monroe, and
Yes, I've seen that film. That's a good film.
Tony Curtis.
Yeah.
I do like that.
Yeah. So, I mean, The Odd Couple might work for you. It's older than this film, but yeah, it's just trying to find what. Cause
maybe I just don't like 80s comedy, because I don't like Ghostbusters either, you know?
That's true. You
I
didn't
like
Ghostbusters.
bits of it. The best part of Ghostbusters is the very end when they're like, everyone clear your mind, don't think of anything. And then you just hear bang, bang, bang. And he's like, I'm so sorry, I tried to keep my mind blank, but he just popped in there. Who popped in there? Stay Puffed. Which, do you want to hear a fun fact, a Mandela effect?
Go on.
So I saw, this is embarrassing to admit, so I saw Ghostbusters when I was a little boy. Didn't really like it, forgot about it, right? Didn't watch it again till I was like 18. I was convinced in my memory that thing at the end was not the Stay Puffed Marshmallow Man. I thought for sure it was the Michelin Tire Man. I kept saying, oh my god, yeah, at the end of Ghostbusters they get attacked by the Michelin Tire Man. Which I don't think they even have in America.
No, I don't think they. I think they haven't got that logo. It's everywhere. Still in the UK, actually, the Michelin Tire Man.
Yeah.
But yeah, it looks like the Michelin Tire Man.
Yeah, for years I was convinced it was the Michelin Tire Man. And then I watched it, I was like, oh no, it's the Stay Puffed Marshmallow Man. Which I actually don't know, is that even a real brand mascot in America? No, it's invented for the film.
Invented for the film, yeah.
Right, okay.
Yeah, they have the Pillsbury Doughboy, and it's obviously kind of a play
It's a
on
parody
that.
of that, yeah.
That's interesting. Maybe it is an 80s thing. Okay, so I want to go back
But
to
I like
Airplane
Dirty
and
Dancing.
but that's not
That's more of a
comedy, really. It's a
rom-com.
rom-com sort of thing, isn't it? Because I was going to say Back to the Future, but that's kind of an adventure comedy.
Yeah, and
You didn't like it?
it's all right.
You also didn't like...
I tell you what I didn't
You
like
don't
was
like
Back
it-
to the Future 3. I hated Back to the Future 3.
It's because it's a Western.
Yeah, it was so dull.
It's the weakest of the three, but I don't think it's that bad. But it is the weakest of the three by a long margin. These, you also didn't like the Indiana Jones trilogy that came out in the 80s.
But I love 80s horror.
Yeah,
80s was great for horror.
it's interesting. Maybe there's something to do with 80s comedy styling that just doesn't
Say Anything.
taste.
I like Say Anything. That's a rom-com again, though.
Yeah.
That's the one with John Cusack where he holds the boombox out the window.
Okay.
I keep saying to people, Say Anything is one film you can never remake. Because imagine that big climatic scene in Say Anything if it was done today. John Cusack with a little iPod. He'd just Bluetooth it to her AirPods, wouldn't he?
Yeah, but the problem is he'd be playing Kanye West. Wouldn't really work, would it?
For some reason in my memory he plays Careless Whisper, but I know he doesn't because that film came out before Careless Whisper. But for some reason in my head it's Careless Whisper on the boombox.
He could have come along with the saxophone, just done the intro. Should have started stripping straight away because that is a sexy saxophone at the beginning of that song.
It's the best saxophone there has ever been in a song, in a popular song.
I want to say I kind of feel a bit sorry for the audience and for the film a little bit because we've divulged quite a lot from.
Yeah,
the
no,
film.
let's go back to Airplane.
But I don't know what else to talk about.
Well, what about the bit you don't like? Because you haven't brought that up yet.
Yes. So
Baldy McBalderson.
Yes. So thankfully he's not in the film very much. However, unfortunately, he is a very memorable part of the film for all the wrong reasons. So as I say, one of the great things that, in my opinion, this film does is that everyone plays it straight, plays it like it's a drama, and that heightens the comedy. Except this one guy. When we meet Lloyd Bridges, father of Bo and Bert.
Jeff.
What?
Jeff.
Jeff.
Did you say Bo and Bert Bridges?
Yeah, Bert Bridges.
Sounds like Burnt Bridges.
Well, that's why he doesn't work there anymore. There's... But yeah, he plays the guy in charge of the airport they have to land at, and he has several people around him that he's giving orders to. One of them is this bald guy, very camp, and the problem isn't the campness. The problem is he's not playing it straight. And I don't mean that sounds wrong. That's not what I meant.
Got to change that phrasing.
No, Jesus.
The performance is too over the top.
Yes, he's playing a cartoon inside the cartoon.
It's leaning too heavily into gay stereotypes as well.
Yes.
Because he's constantly floundering around with his hands and being like, oh.
And it may not be this, but it feels very much like one of the producers went, I'll give you the money if my nephew can be in the film. Yeah. And he's this bald, slightly chubby guy. And they're like, oh, well, we'll make him a comedy guy in this scene. And we'll let him... And he just didn't know the scripts. He just made up his own jokes. I think he was actually a comedian, which is why they gave him the thing. But he was not the right choice for the film. And there's bits that I would have cut. Like, there's a bit where somebody says something, the dials are getting higher or something like that. And then there's just this insert shot where he just jumps in like a frog, grabs this big guy's love handles, goes, and Jeff is getting larger, and then jumps off like a cartoon again.
You have the random bit where he unplugs the lights on the runway.
Yeah.
And then just goes, just kidding.
Yeah, and it's just like these... but the thing is, you don't see the runway lights turn off.
Yeah, you do.
Oh, you do?
Yeah, you do.
But it's for like 3 seconds to set up that joke.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's like, I felt like that was them trying to put some actual drama in it for a minute.
Yeah.
I was like, oh no, now another thing's gone wrong. And then it's just maybe that's the parody element, because that is what a real disaster film would do in it, is...
Someone
that's what
sabotaging
they did.
it.
Yeah.
But the thing is, they already did that parody, and so there's 2 pieces that contradict, that do the same thing, but one works and one doesn't. At least, in my opinion, you may think different. The first one is that you've got the big camp guy pulling the plug and be like, just kidding, I'm plugging the thing back in.
Breaking the fourth wall as well while he does it.
Yeah, that didn't work for me, because he was playing a cartoon within the cartoon. The other one is the captain guy, again, the one who's trying to help call him down. The macho man. And there's a bit where they go, okay, sir, shall we... I think it's about time we put on the lights on the runway or something. I think he goes, no, that's just what they'll be expecting us to do. Like a supervillain. And then it just cuts, and they do it anyway.
What type of man did you say he was?
Macho style man.
Better film. All right, Striker, listen to me, man. You gotta land that airplane, brother.
No, one of the jokes that always makes me wet myself by that guy is, and as you can see, I'm in a pool of my own urine. There was a bit where when he first gets to talk to Ted Stryker on the handset, he goes, "Okay, just hold on a minute, Ted." Turns to the guy in charge of the airport and he goes, "My only way of success is to build up this guy's confidence, really let him know that he's the right man for the job and talk him down gently." He goes, "Okay, Ted, have you ever flown a one-engine biped before?" And he's just like, no, I haven't. He goes, "Jesus Christ, what's the point? The guy's an absolute waste of time." Just start slating him on the phone.
Yeah.
I like that, because it's I like dickhead humour, and that was a guy being a dickhead.
True.
But it fits the tone of the film, and it's genuine. It's a parody of something. It works within the context of the way they've built that world, whereas the bald guy didn't.
Yeah. How does this compare to Naked Gun, which is obviously the other big Zucker series from the 80s?
So, I have a love... I do like Naked Gun.
I'm pretty sure I've seen the first Naked Gun.
Yeah.
It's got Priscilla Presley in it, hasn't it?
She's in all of them, I think.
Oh. Well, if I've seen any of them, it's the first one.
Yeah. I think the first one's meant to be the best one.
Is there a bit where they go to a baseball game?
I think so. So I haven't seen the third one in ages, actually, but I did catch the first 2 more recently. There is a joke I absolutely love in the second one, where he starts talking angrily about sex. It's quite well done. But anyway, the point is I prefer Police Squad,
the series.
Yeah, that they ended up, turning into the movies. they recycle some jokes from that series because I suppose they thought, well, most people probably haven't seen the series, being the time it wasn't going to be available on VHS or anything like that. So they repurposed them into the movies. But usually the jokes are done better in the series when they've repurposed them, because it feels a little bit like they forced the context to put the joke in, whereas in the series it was a natural part of that script progression. I think I prefer Airplane.
Yeah.
I think I prefer Airplane because it's got a very clear focus of what it is, whereas Naked Gun feels like a half-hour police procedural stretched to an hour and a half.
Right.
And something else that I tend not to find funny, and it's not because because you know me, I'm not a royalist, I'm not at all, I got to love Britain and all the royal family and all that jazz, and I can give a fuck. But I know one of the Naked Guns revolves around the Queen, or has the Queen in it, and they do that with Johnny English as well, and I'm just like, oh, I don't give a shit. Like, whenever they bring in the royal family in an American comedy, I'm just like, oh.
Yeah.
Because it's always like, I don't know. It's like they try and be respectful while being disrespectful, and because they're trying to toe both lines, the jokes never land.
Have you ever seen America the Motion Picture?
No.
We might do America the Motion Picture. It's an animated comedy that has some bits in it that are funny and some bits that aren't, but it's basically a retelling of America's history that's completely wrong, because for starters, Abraham Lincoln and George Washington are alive at the same time, which I'm pretty sure they weren't in real life.
Right.
And definitely Abraham Lincoln didn't die before George Washington. But basically, Abraham Lincoln dies by getting assassinated, like Abraham Lincoln did in real life, and then George Washington has like Wolverine claws and goes on a campaign of revenge against the British, and King James the Third, was it, who went mad?
Yeah.
Is played by Simon Pegg, and his evil plan is he's got a giant hot air balloon shaped like a tea kettle, and it's going to pour tea all over America. And when the Americans drink it, they become British. And there is quite... Okay, fair enough, it's making me laugh, even though it's stupid. There is a bit where they force this American to drink some tea, and he literally just, like, trembles a bit, and then poof, he's suddenly British with, like, terrible teeth. And like, oh, tally-o, governor, what, pip, pip. And then the way they end up... It comes to a big battle, like the end of fucking Avengers Endgame. And... there's the entire British army and George Washington and his friends and no one else. And the king's all like, how will you get anyone else to help you? And he I think for the whole film, he's had this guitar and he didn't know what to do with it. And he's like, I know now what I need to do. I need to play the battle cry of my people. I need to summon them with a patriotic tune. And you obviously think he's going to play like the American national anthem. He starts playing fucking Freebird by Lynyrd Skynyrd, and it works. All the Americans like sense it and come running to this battlefield. And you're like, what? But it's also got loads of jokes that do not work, or at least didn't work for me.
Okay,
but we might try. We might give it a look.
Fair enough.
But that's another one. Unfairly, I'm going to stand up for a king for once. George III, I'm sure it was George III who is referred to as the Mad King. Not nearly as bad as things like that and Hamilton make him out to be.
No, he got dementia or something, didn't he? Like, they obviously didn't diagnose it, but because it was only his later life.
It was only like the last 10 years. Because, he's like the third longest reigning monarch. Because I think it's Queen Elizabeth II in it, then Victoria, then it's him. He's right behind Victoria. It was only like the last 10 years of his life. But he also, the quote I always remember from him is when America got its independence... There was, like, this film and Hamilton try and act like there was this animosity. There actually wasn't. There's the most famous quote from George III is he invited their political... What's the word I'm looking for?
President?
No. No. You have a person in your political party whose job it is to go to other countries.
Ambassador.
He invites their ambassador to come to Britain literally as soon as America becomes an independent nation, and it's John Adams at the time, and he goes, and there's a famous quote from George III where he says, he basically promises him that there'll be no more animosity and that Britain and America will have this special relationship that we've still got to this day. The quote is, he says, although I was the last to consent to the divorce, I will be the first to offer my hand in forging a new path. Or something like that.
Right.
Do you think a crazy man would do that?
But he was crazy.
Not at that point.
No.
But anyway, that's a random history lesson for you all.
There we go.
Cool. I think that's probably all there is to say about Airplane.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, summation, I enjoy the film. I think it's a brilliant film. It fits into my sort of humour, the sort of puns that I tend to do, that I do in this show and Jamie cuts out, and I do in VGMP and I leave in because I like to watch him cry. But it does not fit in with the pun type of humour that Jamie absolutely adores. He loves puns.
I hate them.
Why do you hate puns?
I hate them. Every once in a while, there'll be a really good one. Well, that's all there is to say. So thank you for having joined us, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, as we take a little trip back to 1980. That was a second take on Airplane from 1980. And we look forward to hanging out with you guys again when we give another film a second take.